just had a question for y'all since we're on a anarchist podcast. What are y'all's politics, and how does that affect your comedy? Because since we're talking about politics and comedy in a roundabout way.
Yeah, I've got stuff on the wall too. kind of.
I still love that Acadian, or sorry, what was it? Acadian Antifa flag.
Oh yeah.
Oh, sorry. Give me 1 second. I want to show y'all a sign that my friend got me that I think is amazing, and I just want to show it off.
Hell yeah! Oh hell yeah!
I haven't figured out what I'm gonna do with it. I guess if I start a show, I'll probably put it up somewhere. It's funny that you asked though about like politics informing comedy, because I think some of what we were talking about before about like the sort of conservatives trying to just go up and say shitty opinions or whatever, and it not really being jokes. What they're trying to do, I think, is imitate people that they admire who had different politics but did a similar style of thing. People who like tear down idols or whatever, iconoclasts, right? Like your Bill Hicks or George Carlin or whatever, right? Is if you go and like watch one of their specials, it's not necessarily like set up, punchline, laugh, tagline, callback. You know, it gets to be just kind of like somewhat artistically, but mostly just kind of like saying opinions, right?
Yeah. Like, well, it's not comedy. They just get to become orators.
Yeah, and like there's definitely comedy in all of those specials. Like there are jokes and there are like setup and punchline things, but weaved in there just like kind of, you know, here's the thing I think about the world and why I think it and why you should too. And a lot of people appreciate that kind of thing if it's something they agree with or can identify with, like I did when I was growing up watching George Carlin. But like those people who are just like, I'm gonna just like go up and tell truth to power about trans people or whatever, like it's obviously like shitty opinions and punching down and kind of the opposite of what they're doing. But I think they're like trying to imitate those like George Carlin-y types. For my own personal comedy, I don't do a ton of that. Like I say, I'll do jokes that align with my politics because I'm the one who wrote them, right? Like they generally don't conflict with my politics. But it's also not just like, and, you know, here's how we abolish hierarchies. And it's just like, I don't know, here's a funny story about me stealing from Walmart or, you know, here's a story about my boss fucking me over or something like that subtly aligns with my politics, but isn't written in a sort of like Christian rock way of starting with the message and forming the art around it.
I'm not a big fan of the just like talking, but also like in joke design, that's not like very good joke design to like be like, I want to talk about X, and then like you're just making writing jokes very hard for yourself because it's a lot harder to like think of something funny and it, like Joey was saying, just happen to relate to your life versus like, I have like an opinion about trans people that I think everybody needs to know. So let me go fucking do that.
Right. Structurally, though not like content-wise, but structurally it's similar to how like a late-night talk show host does jokes, right? Is that it's not like, oh, I thought of something funny, let me figure out kind of a way to present that. It's like, oh, this is in the news, I need to touch on it, let me think of a way to make that funny. Late night talk show hosts have like a lot of writers, so like they can get to something fairly funny, but like if you're just sitting down with like like, I'm gonna try and make my opinions about X funny, you can kind of see the strings of the marionette.
Yeah, you're not better than Twitter. You're not better at coming up with jokes than Twitter is.
Right.
The only comedians I had to look up to when I was young was, well, the main successful ones at least. That was Filthy Frank. And I have to put forward, like, because I am wondering what, you know, in he's moved on. Joji, God bless him. What were those years when this guy in a pink jumpsuit basically starts just saying slurs in Japanese and stuff? And what was did that make first of all, did y'all know, were y'all paying attention to that kind of stuff at the time?
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
I see.
He's a YouTube. He used to be a YouTuber that was pretty popular and is like not just a matter of like popularity at the time, but has probably like grown in importance since he left YouTube in terms of like cultural impact. I mostly absorbed that stuff through Vine during that era. I was like, a lot of my comedy consumption was through Vine, which RIP. It's that was just a great format because like, I don't know, constraints lead to a lot of creativity. But like some of his stuff would end up on Vine, like little sort of. He became a million different like reaction gifs and meme formats.
I thought you were talking about the game and the little like guy with the pink body, and I was like, does that guy just start saying racial slurs all of a sudden?
That would.
I think that's probably that era, right? Like a lot of more traditional canon of like stand-up comedians that influence people are directly tied to like cable, and I guess now kind of Netflix. But I think that like your people who otherwise would have been known for being on like Comedy Central now like just like a YouTuber, a TikToker, or what, like those are the people who are more prominent as opposed to people who are on like Comedy Central Presents or whatever.
How has TikTok impacted all this, you think? Just, the way in which comedy is kind of, because there is that generational effect almost. I feel like that's what we were kind of, alluding to earlier.
I like it. I think all the Instagram and TikTok comics are great. I don't necessarily think that they're like the funniest people, but I think that some of them are pretty funny, and like if they care about comedy, then they just translate that to comedy, like to stand up. But some people, there is like a problem with like kind of famous people thinking they're stand-up comedians, where people who just have like no business going up in front of a crowd will do that and ruin their own lives. And I'm like a supporter of that because I'm just a supporter of more ways for comics to kind of get their content out there, because comedy is mostly like a rich kid's game. Like that's who can afford to go and like live in New York and do comedy like a million times a week, or like the only people who can really afford to do that are either rich kids or like they got rich relatives or something. I mean, like there's like very few stories of people actually making it like from there, but it usually has nothing to do with comedy. It's kind of a rigged thing. So I'm a big supporter of like the online spaces and comedy being able to exist outside of just stand up.
Yeah, more stuff, more ways to do things like that, at least to, my ear. That sounds like a good thing. And that's not something that you often, you don't often hear that from within these spaces, because there's kind of a thing of like, oh, these new kids, it's like these new meddling kids have come in to ruin comedy with whatever or something along those lines.
Yeah, well,
and
just
it's like,
get better then. Like if they're coming in and like fucking like taking your work, then get better. Learn how to do what they're doing. I don't know, I don't know.
Yeah, it's like,
yeah, I'm mad because I can't gatekeep your access to Instagram stories or whatever.
Yeah, we live in a time now where like the internet is, we have the internet, so there's a lot more things than just going on the stage and then getting on Comedy Central. TikTok allows you to reach a more wider audience at your own volition. A lot of it is hit or miss. Like you find something someone posts something they think is funny. It's really not that funny. Or it's just really in poor taste. Also, the algorithm. There's an algorithm of TikTok where you see certain people's things on how you interact with other people's things. So it's really weird. TikTok is a weird thing. Also, I like Vine. Looking back on it, kind of cringe. I'm not gonna lie. Some of it was kind of cringe. Vine was only 6 seconds. Now you have TikTok. You can do longer, so you can have more thought out things than something within those 6 seconds that is very, very hit or miss. And I think it's the nostalgia that thinks that Vine was awesome. Looking back, like I would look back on some of the old Vines, some from certain creators were kind of like, why was this made? Like this is like Dumb and Dumber 2. Like it didn't need to be made. Like
kind of like but at the very least, like with Vine, it wasn't that long, right? Now there's
7-second clips. TikTok, you have up to 10 minutes.
It's 10. Okay. I thought it was, for some reason, I thought it was 13. I don't know why it would do
Oh,
that.
wow. I thought it was like a minute and a half.
No, they keep raising it. I remember I don't know, they might have raised it to 13. I remember they raised it to like 3, and then people were like, oh, this is the end of part 2s, and then there's still people making part 2 videos. And then they raise it again, and there's still people making part 2 videos.
Yeah, of course.
It's
Why
so bad.
reinvent
I
the
hate it.
cliffhanger?
Like if you can fit it in one video, put it in one video. Like, stop it. You're gonna ruin your views and stuff.
I think like the sort of shortness and brevity of Vine did add, while like obviously there's sort of a failure rate of like it's really hard to get something actually funny into 6 seconds. Is like whenever it works, it's like my favorite thing. In the same way as like like Twitter and Twitter's like doubled its character count since it started or whatever. I've always found it's like whenever someone's like posting like threads and stuff, I don't find it nearly as engaging, but like all of my favorite tweets like don't even come near the character limit. They're all just like bam, just like a handful of words, and it's just like you found something there somehow. I don't know. I find the same thing with Vine. Is like somehow some Vines, like I see them and I'm like, that had to be longer than 6 seconds. There's just no way you managed to convey that in 6 seconds. It's like the hurdle is so high that whenever you clear it, it's more impressive, I guess, is what I like about it. But there's definitely a failure rate of like, yeah, this would have been a lot better if you had 30 seconds, but or a minute or whatever. But like,
I never thought about that. That's the ultimate trimming the fat. They just like,
yeah, right.
You should have nothing but loose concepts of ideas.
Right. It's like Mitch Hedberg jokes or something, right? They're all like trimmed down to the absolute bare bones of like, if you couldn't like take anything out of a Vine and have it still work, right? Like there's no second you could cut out because it's all like jam, all filler, no filler, It's like, I don't know. Hey, but again, you also have a lot of just completely pointless things. But I guess that's part of it too, right? It's because it's 6 seconds. You don't feel like you wasted all that much time watching.
Hello, this is David Lieberhart.
And Jason the Cat.
Please join Crew Day Maine and the Center for Stateless Society.
For Crew Day Crawl.
A week-long
Anarchist Book Fair.
and Mardi Gras
Festival.
in St. Tammany,
County.
Louisiana. To be live podcast.
Music.
Stand-up comedy. Drag.
So much.
Visit our website, crewdaygras,
.wgf.
for more information.
Thank you.
Have a great Mardi Gras.